In 1718, a man sat rotting in a Barbados prison cell. He had committed no crime. The court agreed. They let him walk free after 3 months. And that man, that innocent man, would go on to become one of the most cunning pirate captains of the entire Golden Age. Not by force, not by birth, not by royal appointment. He got there by a vote, a democratic vote, over a bowl of punch. His name was Howell Davis. Welsh by birth, sailor by upbringing, and briefly, very briefly, a man the British Empire trusted. This is the story of how the Empire broke him, and how he rose again. But before the prison, before the pirates, before any of it, there was a harbor, the birthplace of one of history's most cunning pirates. Milford Haven, Pembrokeshire, Wales, around 1690. The boy born here had a Welsh name, Hewell, the name of kings, Howell in the English that everyone around him also spoke. In Milford Haven in 1690, the sea wasn't a career choice. It was the only curriculum available. Boys from harbor families went to sea before they were teenagers. They learned rope from rigging, latitude from stars, and authority from the chain of command that ran from ship's boy all the way up to master. Young Howell Davis didn't dream of becoming a pirate. He dreamed of command. By his mid-20s, he had made it to chief mate, first officer, of a Bristol snow called the Cadogan, second in command. The Cadogan's business was the guinea trade. That is the polite name history used for slave trade. Human beings purchased on the West African coast in exchange for Bristol cloth and copper, and transported to Barbados and Virginia. Davis, as chief mate, managed the cargo. Sierra Leone, July the 11th, 1718. The Cadogan was riding at anchor off the West African coast when the lookout saw the sail. The ship coming toward them flew no flag that gave comfort. Her gun ports were open. Her crew were visible at the rail, too many of them, too armed. She was a pirate ship, commanded by one of the most feared captains in the Atlantic, Edward England. What happened next was not random pirate violence. It was something far more specific. It was payback. Several of England's crew had served under Skinner on a previous voyage. He had discharged them without full pay. In the social economy of the lower decks, that was roughly equivalent to theft at knife point. They had been pressed into a Royal Navy man-of-war, deserted at the first chance, and eventually found their way to Edward England. Now they were looking at their former captain on his own deck. England's crew had a debt to collect from Skinner, and they collected it in full. Skinner was shot dead and thrown into the sea. The Cadogan needed a new captain. Howell Davis watched all of this with remarkable composure. He was the senior surviving officer of a ship whose crew had a pre-existing grudge against his captain, and some of those very crewmen were now standing on the deck as part of England's pirate band. England turned to the survivors and made his offer. Sign the articles, join the crew, become pirates. Davis refused. He didn't just decline. He announced, loudly, clearly, in front of everyone, that he would sooner be shot to death than put his name to any pirate's articles. Davis had to read this room instantly and correctly. His decision to perform heroic defiance rather than cowering or simply volunteering for piracy was psychologically astute. It created distance between himself and Skinner's fate, while projecting exactly the kind of courage that commands respect among men who live by force. Edward England, one of the most feared pirates on the West African coast, looked at this man. He was impressed by this act. So impressed that instead of killing him, made him captain. England appointed Davis captain of the Cadogan, in place of the dead Skinner. He gave Davis a sealed letter with orders not to open it until they reached a certain latitude. When the Cadogan reached the appointed latitude, Davis broke the seal and read England's orders aloud to his crew. The letter was, in its way, a generous document, a deed of gift. The ship and its cargo transferred to Davis and the crew. Instructions to sail to Brazil, sell everything, and divide the proceeds equally. Davis looked at his men. He had a ship. He had a cargo. He had a route to profit. All he needed was a crew willing to follow. The crew refused. The majority of the Cadogan's crew were merchant sailors. They had signed on for the Guinea trade, not for piracy. Following England's orders meant the noose if they were caught. Davis raged at them, called them damned fools, but his authority came from England, and England was gone. And these men had never chosen him. They had simply survived beside him. They steered for Barbados. When they arrived, they told the merchants everything: Skinner's death, England's boarding, and the proposal Davis had made to follow pirate orders. Davis was seized. He was committed to prison. The man who had refused to sign pirate articles was imprisoned for suggesting piracy, not committing it. 3 months. That is how long he sat in a Barbados jail. Eventually, the law admitted that he had done nothing illegal, and then he was discharged into nothing. He was free, but ruined. No ship, no rank, no legitimate employer who would touch him. The system that had acquitted him had also, quietly and efficiently, expelled him from it. He was a man without a world. He heard that Providence Island in the Bahamas was a known pirate rendezvous. He found passage there. He arrived and found the harbor quiet, the streets full of men with recently acquired pardons and carefully arranged expressions of reform. The pirates of Providence had surrendered to Captain Woodes Rogers. Royal authority, the act of grace, a pardon for any pirate who submitted in time. Davis had arrived too late for piracy and too damaged for honest work. He was perfectly, exquisitely caught between worlds. And then Woodes Rogers, the man who had just defeated the pirates, gave Davis a job. Woodes Rogers was a practical man. He'd circumnavigated the globe and now governed Providence. He needed experienced sailors for his trading operations. He had 2 sloops, the Buck and the Mumville Trader, bound for trade with the French and Spanish. Davis was experienced, was available. Davis was hired. Not as captain, not as mate, just another sailor. He was invisible, and invisible was exactly what he needed to be. While Rogers saw a pair of trading sloops, Davis saw something else entirely. He saw a crew full of former pirates who had accepted pardons under duress. Men who had signed the act of grace because the alternative was a gibbet. Men who had spent years living by the vote, by the article, by the democratic rough justice of the pirate world, and who had exchanged all of it for the uncertain mercy of a colonial governor. These men were not reformed. They were waiting. Davis knew how to wait. He had learned it in a Barbados cell. He spent his days on Roger's sloop learning names, reading faces, testing loyalties the way you test ice. Slowly, at the edges first, never in the middle. He wasn't pulling ropes. He was studying people. The island of Martinique, a Caribbean night, the buck in the Mumville trader rode at anchor in its waters, laden with European goods for the French trade. The crew slept, or pretended to. Davis did not sleep. He had spent the weeks since Providence assembling what he needed. Not weapons, not plans, but something more fundamental. Consensus. He had identified the men ripe for rebellion. He had spoken to them the way such conversations happen, obliquely, carefully. He had not promised them paradise. He had promised them what they already wanted and had been too afraid to take. Freedom. They moved quickly and quietly to the master's cabin. They secured him before he could shout. They took the ship without a single shot fired. Speed and silence. It was over in minutes. Then Davis hailed the Mumville trader, riding nearby, and they came. The majority of them, climbing over the rail and standing on the deck of the buck. Those who refused were sent back to the Mumville trader. By dawn, the buck was his. The Mumville trader was drifting, and Davis had a crew. But he didn't declare himself captain. Instead, he called a vote. They gathered, all of them, the men who had risen in the night, the men who had crossed from the Mumville trader, and at the center of it, a large bowl of punch. In pirate democracy, as in the Athenian original, important decisions required a gathering, and a gathering required something to drink. The question was simple. Who should command? There was no argument. The vote fell upon Davis by a great majority, and all acquiesced. Davis accepted the command. He drew up articles. Each man signed. Each man swore. This was the third time Howell Davis had been given command. First by death, then by a pirate, and now by free men who knew exactly who he was. The first two commands were given to him. This one, he earned. Next time, Howell Davis will capture a fort without firing a shot and begin one of the most extraordinary 11-month careers in pirate history.
If you enjoyed this video and want more such stories lost to history, hit like and subscribe to Plunders and Prey.